And you wouldn't bet on them managing to hang on at the moment. Needs absolutely every one of the riders contributing up front, and there's lots of activity in the group behind us. Riders end up on the pavement in their efforts to get in position at the front of the group. Petersky has a little anxious look over his shoulder to see, are they hanging on? They go left.
Well, that's the situation here as Petersky goes clear. Sanchez happy to work with him, but there are several non-working members of that breakaway. Hofstetter, of course, isn't going to work. Du Bois is doing a little bit of work. Corsair will not work as well. He's got his team leader, Alexander Kristoff, back in that group, as well as Edvald Boasson-Hagen. So we're getting Mugleri, who's working a little bit for Slovenia, he's the rider just at the back of that group, just on the wheel of Chimolai in white. But it is the Danish squad, Declan, who have all brought this back together just a couple of seconds. They knew that was a very, very dangerous move indeed, and we thought that was the last place that we'd see an attack. It does look as if it's going to come back together, but some great work there by the Danish squad. This little move that's gone clear, not quite enough cohesion for it to work.
Yeah, two Danes on the front, and Germany have a couple of representatives there as well at the front of the bunch as they knit it back together again. The junction is made. That breakaway group has not been successful on this occasion, but from that group, a couple of riders just trying to launch once more. Jasper de Boist has taken Hofstetter with him of France, and also so one of the Norwegian riders has fancied his chances of racing. It's Corset, I think, who was originally in that breakaway group, who's just got a few meters of an advantage, and as Italy come to the front of the group, they've got some work to do. That one's closed down. 7 and a bit kilometers remaining. It's stretched thin. It's as fast as it's been all day.
This is fantastic racing here in the crosswind section. Corsair looks behind. He's not going to drive too hard at all. He's been very, very aggressive himself. He's done very well in covering those moves. Did take the race into the gutter on the other side of the road. Now moves across to the left, allowing riders to move up the inside. Just a moment of relaxation, but generally speaking, unless there's a team working on the front, this is a moment where riders will seek to try and attack, and it's Belgium on the offensive again.
Yeah, that little bit of road furniture splits the bunch in two, and it's not a bad opportunity and not a bad time to do it, as Edvald Boasson-Hagen just slots in here, and Jens Kukelaar is involved again once more. A little bit of a crack developing. Denmark finding they have to close the gap once more. Russia have put a rider into it. Germany once more. Young team, but it's showing plenty of ambition and talent. Kukelaar goes on the attack. That one launching him in absolutely perfect and classic fashion, but Edvald Boasson-Hagen just developed so much strength, and now we know exactly how Norway are going to play it.
It looks like Edvald Boasson-Hagen has been given free range to try and go with the attacks, maybe trying to save the sprint for Alexander Kristoff. So a clear definition of roles within the Norwegian team, but just look at the amount of power Edvald Boasson-Hagen has. We saw the form that he had in the Tour de France, of course, took a remarkable stage as well as performing extremely well in the bunch sprint, and he is surging clear with another powerhouse on his wheel. Jens Kukelaar of Belgium. Kukelaar now goes to the front. This is a very dangerous move with 6.3 to go.
Well, the other teams will know it, and those riders just desperate to try and close this one down. They've got superb talent up front. We saw with the stage victory in the Tour de France that you give Edvald Boasson-Hagen 3 bike lengths, and that's all he needs, and you cannot close it because he just develops so much power, so much strength. And this little section of road, as we come in through the town of Herning and through the streets, the narrow streets with the 90-degree turns, that's to the advantage of the two up front, dangling off the front. 5.5 kilometers remaining. Surely it's too far, but they will persevere. They'll press on.
And it looks like one of the Slovenian riders is trying to get across the gap. There's definitely another rider now on the wheel of Edvald Boasson-Hagen in the red of Norway, but leading through Jens Kukelaar of Belgium. That's that left-hand corner. Only got a couple of seconds, and the bunch is being led by Denmark just behind. So Norway lead, Denmark chase.
Norway on the front with Jens Kukelaar and Edvald Boasson-Hagen, Jens Kukelaar of Belgium, and Russia have got a rider in there as well, and they've got a little bit of daylight. Just over 5 kilometers remaining as the Dutch come to the front of the bunch. Denmark as well. Little look over his shoulder for Edvald Boasson-Hagen. He needs assistance. and he's not getting it. Not total cooperation between these three riders, but Cucalera will contribute.
Yeah, the dangerous rider is the Russian on the back, but of course he did bridge across that gap very, very strongly indeed. So fair play. Hopefully he will start working in a minute. A couple of very urgent flicks of the elbows to try and get the Russian rider to work. He is sat now on the wheel of Edvald Boasson-Hagen, indicating he will now start showing the pacemaking, which he does. Quick glance over the shoulder. These three riders now moving slowly clear, just under 5Ks to go. But who is the team that are leading the chase behind? Opening up a nice little lead here.
I think that might be Nikolai Trusov. Won't totally commit to it, but Trusov's a very strong rider with the Gazprom Rozvelo squad. Looks like he has a black Colnago underneath him. The bunch is spread wide. Try and pick up the numbers as they come through.
It does look
Cheeky
like
time. Trusov, we're getting confirmation, is joining with Edvald Boasson-Hagen, Jens Cucalera, and what strength that Cucalera has shown, because he's been on the attack all afternoon, and that he still has the strength for these attacks. It's such impressive stuff from Jens Cucalera, who's been on the attack in races of late throughout the continent, and Trusov is a pair of strong legs to contribute to this one as well. Look at the flags flying. It's a cross headwind for them. Not exactly an ideal situation for these riders to survive, but I'll tell you what, the bunch behind just can't quite get to grips with this one, and riders are trying to fire off, and we don't have anything like the same control in terms of lead-outs.
But well, Nikolai Trusov, a very, very strong rider indeed, 32 years of age. He'll be riding for Gazprom next year as well. These three riders now relaying very well indeed. Germany are on the front, but I must admit the bunch is at 6s and 7s. The Russian riders very, very wisely gone to the front. It's Juraj Sagan who hits the front now to try and bring back this move. Where are the Danish riders? Where are the Italians? They are the teams with strength and depth that could bring this back. But just remember about the horsepower we have in front. Jens Cucalera, winner of the Tour of Belgium. Edvald Boasson-Hagen, multiple stage winner in the Tour de France and in the form of his life. And a very solid rider indeed in the form of the experienced Russian on the back, Nikolai Trusov. These three riding very, very well indeed.
Three out front. 3.3 kilometers remaining, and it's Juraj Sagan for Slovakia. His brother won this title 12 months ago, and he just flicks off the front. Big contribution. The Russian team gravitating towards the front, trying to make this as complicated as possible for any team that wants to come up and close it down. The Polish team putting riders to the fore as they try to get organized and make a plan, because they cannot hold anything back at this moment. Still, as Trusov is now putting his shoulder to the wheel, and it's total accord between these three riders, and still Edvald Boasson-Hagen is able to make the contribution and look around without any difficulty. As looks of the three well within himself. Cucalera as well cuts a very strong and impressive figure on the bike. Less than 3 kilometers remaining.
Well, this is the good chance for this group now, because they've got a tailwind section from this point onwards before they reach the Flamme Rouge, and then quite cruelly they swing around gradually into that brutal headwind. That is where the fatigue will start to pay on the legs. But of course we do have three very, very strong riders out in front, and it's Poland leading the chase behind in the red and white.
They've got a great sprinter in the shape of Banaszek. Who will they set up for? It has to be, it could be Peterski as well. We've seen Peterski on the attack of late. The Polish team are taking this one up. It's going to be a source of encouragement and delight to some of the other teams. We see Spain a little bit further back, and so many riders. Well, the pace is on the front of the bunch, because look at the way that riders are being dropped. The gaps are being let go behind, and the intensity of the effort. And that gives you some indication of just what an impressive athletic effort is being put on by these three riders on the front. Boasson-Hagen, Cucalera and Porsov.
Indeed, well, it looks as if the gap has come down to about 5 seconds now. It is Russia on the front, actually trying to slow down the chase. The Italians on the right-hand side in the white and blue jerseys. The Russians, of course, in a very similar jersey indeed. But here's many, many Italians have now been put out. The back Ballerini, his day is done. And still the Italians chase, and the gap is coming down. But Edvald Boasson-Hagen goes solo.
Well, he's revved it up, and there he goes. And you had a sense that he had a little bit left. Edvald Edvald Boasson-Hagen has gone for it. Jens Kukelair and Trusov realise that the game is up and they're about to be hunted down by the bunch, led by the Italian team, and the Italian squad who looked out of it a couple of hours ago are very much in this one, but the hammer is down. The big motorbike from Norway has gone for this one. He's hunched low over the bars and he's got a racer's chance.
Well, this is going to be so cruel. He's still got the tailwind at the moment, but then as this road just meanders gently to the right hand side, that is where the wind will start blowing in the Norwegian's face. Has he got enough in the tank? Because the Italian team in the white and blue bearing down. What a fantastic pursuit to the finale of the European Road Champs.
Into the final bend, and they're racing to glory in the European Road Race Championships. I think they're going to break his heart. The camera foreshortens the angle though. Don't rule him out. Edvald Boasson-Hagen, how much strength has he got left as they go to launch? And the Italian squad have control of the front of the bunch. Elia Viviani is waiting in position, third and fourth in line. The Belgians are there as well with Jens de Buskera as they go to launch, and Elia Viviani has moved and swept ahead of Edvald Boasson-Hagen into the final 200 metres. De Buskera is going for it as well. The centre of shot, it's Alexander Kristoff's a crash in the middle of the grip, and riders are coming down left, right and centre, coming in on the inside. It looks as if Elia Viviani could well have just thrown his bike up the line and pinched that one. We'll wait for full confirmation of it, but it looked like Kristoff was in the middle and Elia Viviani, and that was a big crash, and riders from Denmark have hit the floor, Russia as well, and Belarus, Romania. There's carnage at the finish line and a great sprint finish, and Elia Viviani, how he found a way up on the inside, and much pain and suffering for Porsov of the Russian team, and lots of pain and anguish there, but what a sprint finish. We wait to find out exactly who's got it, who's celebrating. Is it going to be the Italian, the wonderful sprinter from Team Sky, Elia Viviani, who's accepting the congratulations, but also looks as if he's not 100% sure who got it on the bike throw. Norway on the inside, and I think, you know what, I think it could well be Alexander Kristoff.
It looks like it's Kristoff. We'll get confirmation because there's a very late throw by Viviani. As you said, Kristoff, I don't know whether he deviated from his line. It's a very close sprint indeed. We said it'd be a crappy sprint because it was into a block headwind. Very close indeed. Viviani managed to move up. He was the rider with the most pace, but Kristoff, I think, just had it by a tyre width on the line. We'll have to wait and see what the commissaires make of that one. But Alexander Kristoff, you know, timed his sprint to perfection, but Viviani somehow found a line on the inside. It wasn't to be for Edvald Boasson-Hagen.
Well, he's giving his explanation of the finish and his opening comments to the local media, but Alexander Kristoff, I think, can thank Edvald Boasson-Hagen for a wonderful effort there, because so many of the other teams really had to work for that one. And Elia Viviani managed to find a way through on the right-hand side of the road. I tell you what, there wasn't a lot of room there. Threw the bike at the line. If anything, it was an early throw, and it was all about timing, really, because at the end of it, they were absolutely flat chat, and neither of them had any more place to give.
Yeah, it was Sabatini who gave Viviani a lead out there. Alexander Kristoff there is leading at the moment. There was the crash, touch of wheels, and you can just see Kristoff still leading, and there's the very narrow gap, and it looks like as if well, I wouldn't say, well, definitely there was a bit of an impingement. Whether it was Kristoff moving off his line, I don't think there was any dramatic deviation from his line. If there was one, it was a gradual one. There was an ever-decreasing gap for Viviani to get through. But I think there may be an appeal by Viviani. We'll wait and see. But what an absolutely fantastic sprint. One of the Dutch riders coming through there for third place on the day.
Yeah, it's been a tough year in many ways for Alexander Kristoff, but for all that, he's taken, what, 6-7 wins at this point. Borsov going down off a wheel and taking Hungarian riders and various other riders with him. But let's watch this on the left-hand side of the road as Elia Viviani just about finds enough space to get involved in the sprint. And the barriers aren't exactly even there, are they?
No, the barriers are a little bit. I mean, this is where Alexander Kristoff, he's not moving that much to the right. I think he was keeping a relatively straight line, but the barriers there, they were a little bit wavy, jutting out slightly, making a narrow gap for Viviani. classic Italian gesticulation there. Clearly not happy with that situation. The big wag of the fingers. We'll have to see what the commissaires make of that. And here it is again. There's the big crash. Several riders actually crashing into the barriers. It was a great lead out by Sabatini. Oh, sorry, one of the others. It was Cimolai who first led out. He swings off. This is now Sabatini going clear with Viviani on his wheel. And it's actually Alexander Kristoff at this point who is on the wheel of Viviani. And then he launches his sprint into the centre of the road. De Bucherer on the left goes very, very early indeed. Remember, guys, this is a real headwind sprint finish. The rider's leaving it very, very late indeed. But there is a bit of a deviation there, I think, from Kristoff. But certainly not a tremendous one. I have seen worse. But just look at how the barriers are laid out on the right-hand side, waving. And that does make it difficult for the riders to pick through. I don't think Kristoff was necessarily at fault there. Yeah. It was more the line of the barriers going down the finishing straight, I think.
Well, we remain to see exactly how the commissaires are going to view it, but I don't think there was much of a case for Alexander Kristoff to answer there. I could understand Viviani's frustration, but I think you've pretty much called it there, Matt, that the barriers played more of a contributing factor in his difficulty in coming through than Alexander Kristoff's line. And look at what that means to Alexander Kristoff, European champion.
There we go. Of course, coming off a rather lean period for the Norwegian champ, but another Norwegian Viking who really animated this race, was always up after a very difficult start, of course, caught in the wrong split with Elia Viviani in the first part of the race, but certainly made amends in the latter part, enabled Norway to just take their foot off the gas a little bit, didn't have to do any chasing, and at one point it did look like Edvald Boasson-Hagen was going to take the title, but that difficult headwind section, even for a rider of the class of Edvald Boasson-Hagen in the former years, made it so difficult. Fresh legs behind, keen to hunt him down and lead out, of course, Elia Viviani. It just wasn't to be, but that allowed Alexander Kristoff. Well, it put a little bit of pressure on Alexander Kristoff when he knew that Edvald Boasson-Hagen was going to be caught. But as we said before, coming to the last 5Ks, a real clear definition in the Norwegian camp. No ambiguity there. It was Edvald to go for the breakaway, Kristoff for the sprint.
I'll tell you what, they've got the World Road Race Championships coming to Bergen in September. How excited are they going to be about that one? Because they've got the ultimate tactical play, haven't they? They've got power in abundance in Edvald Boasson-Hagen to go for the late attack, and there's not too many can close him down. That crash, I think, is one that, well, it's very difficult to look at the rest of the sprint when you're looking at that crash, isn't it? It was pretty hectic stuff. There's confirmation by the width of a tyre. It is the European Championship going to Alexander Kristoff. Happy days. They celebrate in Norway.
Yeah, good team effort there. Again, fresh off a win last weekend for Alexander Kristoff in the Ride London Surrey Classic. There's your confirmation.
There's confirmation of the standings at the conclusion of the European Championships. Kristoff getting the victory ahead of Viviani. Moreno Hofling getting up for the bronze medal ahead of Ackermann, Mezgec, Tunes, Nomela, Garcia, Franchak and Kolar. Nice top 10 finishes for all of them, but it's all about Kristoff getting the gold medal and that European champions jersey to carry with him